Very good morning and happy Sabbath to each one of you. I would like to bring you some information that we presented at Sungai Ara to a lot of people who are interested in health. And it is on nourishing the brain. In order to function best, we must have brains that are active at their highest level. And in order to be able to do that, your brains need to be fed. It's just like plants. Right now, my orchids don't seem to bloom. My chili peppers don't have fruit. The flowers drop off. I think it's a matter of poor nutrition. So I hope that in adding some fertilizer, my plants will do better. It's the same thing with your brain. If you do not add the right kind of nourishment, your brain will not do well. And we do have a responsibility in taking care of our bodies. And our brain being at the top of our body is most important. That's why 1 Corinthians 6:19 and 20 is a text that is so important in this talk that I'm going to give. Our bodies are the temple of God, and we must take good care of it. 1 Corinthians 10:31 also says, "Whether therefore you eat or drink or whatsoever you do all to the glory of God." So is taking care of our health part of religion? In a sense, it is, because we are all stewards of our bodies. And as stewards, we must take care of what God has given us. In Romans 12:1 and 2, it focuses on which part of our body we must really take care of. Verse 1 says that our bodies are like sacrifices given to God. And you know that in the Old Testament times, sacrifices have to be perfect. No problems at all with the skin or the joints or the muscles. The animal must be just perfect. And in verse 2, it says that we are to focus on our minds. As living sacrifices, we are to be transformed in renewing of our minds, that we may understand what is good and acceptable, and in the end understand the perfect will of God. It's not just to become strong and healthy sinners, but to become people who know the will of God. Then you can do what God tells you. So that's why this information on nourishing our minds is very important. It helps your brain to function the way that it should. There was a gentleman by the name of Terry in Northern California, who is a businessman, and he got contracts to run prisons for the government. You know, there are so many prisons and so many prisoners that the government is contracting out the care of prisoners to people in California. So Terry was a Seventh-day Adventist, and he knew enough about how the brain functions. He had some of this information from Dr. Neil Netley, that he wanted to give the prisoners who wanted it a good diet that will help their minds function better, in the hopes that if their minds were thinking better, there would be less problems among the prisoners. They would be able to handle stress. They would be having fewer quarrels, and the prisons would run better. So he offered the prisoners two types of diets. One is a vegetarian diet. The other one is a regular diet among people who eat meat. Some of the prisoners said, being in prison is already bad enough, and making me a vegetarian is double punishment. So they did not choose it. But others said, well, I'm already in prison, it may be that I can learn something. So they chose the vegetarian diet. After about 6 months or so, Terry noted that people who were choosing the vegetarian diet were able to handle stress better. And they themselves said that they were handling themselves much better. And they said that if they had been on that diet, maybe they wouldn't have landed in prison. That was how well the experiment went. Now, why is it that those prisoners who went on a vegetarian diet did better? There are about 50 kinds of neurotransmitters in the brain. Neurotransmitters are chemicals that bring the cells into connection with each other and create thoughts. So without neurotransmitters, your brain would not be thinking. And if you have the right kind of neurotransmitters, you are more likely to think correctly than if you did not have them. The three most important neurotransmitters are serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. Now, this is not a class where you're going to take an exam. The only three chemicals I think that you should remember well from this talk, if you forget everything else, don't worry. Serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. They are the three main neurotransmitters that you need in your brain. So the brain's function is deteriorated by junk food, flesh food, highly refined food, and excessive sugar, because it will lower these neurotransmitters in your brain. Now, if you take sugar, it does increase serotonin in the brain, making you feel better. But the problem is, you got to keep taking sugar. When you don't have enough sugar, the serotonin level goes down. So you got to take too much sugar in order to keep up this serotonin level. So you become an addict, sugar addict, which you don't want to be, because there are other things that sugar does besides raising serotonin level. Chocolate also increases serotonin and dopamine, making you feel good, because serotonin and dopamine are the neurotransmitters that make people feel good. But you got to become a chocoholic, yeah, which is not good for your health in the long term. So it's serotonin that makes you have a happy feeling, and it calms anxiety, promotes sleep, relieves depression. Dopamine works on the frontal lobe and controls our emotions, gives the feeling of pleasure. And lack of it can lead to irrational thinking. And it can impair your memory. Norepinephrine controls anxiety and depression. So if you look at these three neurotransmitters, norepinephrine, this circle, dopamine, this circle, and serotonin, this circle, they overlap in their actions. And if you have all three of them well balanced, look at the middle, you have a sense of well-being, your intelligence is improved, your memory is improved. So if you have an imbalance, you can get improvement in certain areas but not other areas. So how do we improve the neurotransmitters in our brain? You have to have the right kind of food. Food is your medicine. And most medicines are actually made of plants. In fact, I read one article where it said 60% of medicines are made from plants. So food is medicine, and most of that good medicine come from plants. There are two amino acids. One is called tryptophan and the other one is called tyrosine. And they make serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. So you need these plant sources of tryptophan and tyrosine. You can get it from animal flesh also, but not in as great a quantity. The foods that are rich in tryptophan are like pumpkin and squash, seaweed, chia seeds, sesame seeds. Most of them are seeds, plants. So if you eat a vegetarian diet, for sure you have enough tryptophan to make the neurotransmitters. What about tyrosine? Same thing. Seaweed, spirulina, pumpkin, squash, Spanish peanuts, lentils. So there's plenty of this tyrosine in plant foods. There are also some amino acids that will block the absorption of tyrosine and tryptophan. And they are called the large neutral amino acids. Now, as I told you, you remember the first three things, the serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. You can forget this, don't worry. Just know that you can get blocked in absorption. They are large neutral amino acids. However, if you have more of the tyrosine and tryptophan in proportion, it will still get through. Your brain can still absorb it. So you must make sure that the foods you eat have a lot of tryptophan and tyrosine that will overcome this blockage of the large neutral amino acids. So those foods that have a high level of tryptophan in relation to the large amino acids and still get through and produce the tryptophan in your brain are the chia seeds, grapes, sweet potato baked in the skin, cauliflower. Again, it is a lot of plant foods. How about tyrosine? If it gets, if it has a high percentage, it will not get blocked. So what are the foods that have high percentage of, let's see, of tyrosine? Again, it is plant foods. Mustard greens, chaisim, watermelons, raw, seaweed, soybeans. A lot of this stuff we can get in Malaysia. You can get in a vegetarian restaurant if you don't want to cook it yourself. Another thing to feed our brain is called omega-3, and a lot of people make money. They get information that omega-3 is good, so they sell it. But you don't really have to buy the expensive processed omega-3. Omega-3 deficiency will cause fatigue, poor memory, dry skin, heart problems, mood swings. And omega-3 can help dementia, increasing blood circulation in the brain. And something called transthyretin, which destroys a chemical called amyloid beta protein, which causes Alzheimer's disease. So one UK study found 70% of depressed individuals improve with omega-3 supplementation. So where do you get omega-3? And those who sell it will say, come to my store, I have it. And others will say, oh, eat fish. Fish has high omega-3. And indeed, the fish that has the highest omega-3, 4,023 milligrams in 178 grams, or half a fillet, is the Atlantic salmon. And then there's herring, rainbow trout. I am not clear, there's no list of the local fish we get, but definitely fish have high omega-3. But the problem with fish is that they have high levels of toxins like DDT and mercury, which lowers the IQ in babies. So what is the solution for vegetarians? Eat plant-based sources of omega-3. In fact, if you look at plant sources, they will have higher omega-3 than fish. Now here's a slide showing how fish get contaminated with toxin. In a lake in California called Clear Lake, that means it's very good water, there's like 0.02 parts per million parts of water, very low level of DDT. However, the plants that take in the water concentrates the DDT, and the plants themselves have 5 parts of DDT per million. This is called biomagnification, the biological magnification of the toxin. Living plants need water, and the water has a very small amount of DDT, but as they take the water, it concentrates in the plants. And then the fish which eat plants have 40 to 300 parts per million of DDT. So the fish that eat the plants now concentrate the DDT in the body. How about the fish that eat other fish? This number is wrong, there should be 1 0 less. Up to 2,500 parts per million of DDT. So from water that is very clean, 0.02 parts of DDT per million parts of water, it can get up to 2,500. That is a magnification of thousands of times. So that's why eating fish, even though a fish is caught in clean water, is not necessarily healthy. The fish can be severely contaminated. So we go to plant sources. Now remember, Atlantic salmon had the highest omega-3, like 4,000 milligrams per serving. You look at flax seed, 1 ounce has 6,000, 50% more omega-3. So you can eat flaxseed without the toxins in the fish. So people who eat fish can get omega-3, but they will get toxins with it. Whereas those who eat vegetables, plant sources will not. Flaxseed, chia seeds, walnuts, canola oil, these are all very high in omega-3. Now, omega-3 is not just one chemical. It is actually 3 types of chemicals. One is called EPA. I won't trouble you to learn to pronounce this, but it's eicosapentaenoic acid. Very long name. I hate to pronounce these names. Just call it EPA. Then there's DHA and ALA. Now these first 2 are found in fish. The third one is found in plants. Then you say, well, if I eat plants, I'll miss the first 2. Not true. Because the first 2, EPA and DHA, can be made from ALA. So if you eat plants only and get only ALA, your body will convert ALA to EHA, DHA. So you don't need to eat the fish to get the 2 other types of omega-3. All right. So what are the benefits? a lot of benefits from omega-3. It can halt the progression of Alzheimer's disease. It can help with depression, help in anger management, frequency of epileptic seizure, improvement multiple sclerosis, and so on and so on. Many, many advantages. So it's good to have omega-3, but you don't need to eat fish. That's why the Californian prisoners who chose a vegetarian diet did very well. Now, if drug companies were to make EPA and DHA to sell it, they'll become very rich. But they're not allowed to make it. Why? Because the chemical structure is already present in nature. You cannot sell it as a new drug. It's present in nature. That's the law with making medicines for sale. You cannot make something that's already present in nature and call it something new as a drug and sell it. So what do? The companies get it from the fish, omega-3, clean it up, clean the toxins, and then sell it. But you can just go downtown and buy some flaxseed and have all the omega-3 that you need. Now, there was an interesting article just yesterday on the 4th April, CNN News. It says it's not what you eat that is killing you so much as what you don't eat. Isn't that interesting? They say what you don't eat is going to kill you more, because they found out that in many countries, poor diet, which is they don't get certain things in their diet, cause more deaths than tobacco smoking, high blood pressure. This professor at the University of Washington says. It's not just that people are choosing unhealthy options such as red meat and sugary sodas. Just as critical, said Afshin, in a 27-year global diet analysis. That's pretty good, long term, 27 years. Published Wednesday in a journal called Lancet, which is the leading medical journal in UK. It is the lack of healthy foods in our diets, along with high levels of salt. So while traditionally all the conversation about healthy diet has been focused on lowering the intake of unhealthy food, in this study we have shown that at the population level, a low intake of healthy foods is more important than the high intake of unhealthy foods. And what are the healthy foods that people are not taking? They said it is fruits, grains, nuts that people are not taking, and that's what causing more deaths than even the eating of unhealthy foods. So you have to leave off the unhealthy foods and take healthy foods in order to get the best health possible. And this was stated by God in Genesis 1:39. And God said, "Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat." And in verse 30, it says, "And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat." And it was so. Wow. Not only to human beings, but to animals. Then you say, you look at the lion, you look at the household cat, which is like a miniature lion. They are made for eating meat. Look at their teeth, tearing the canines. And there are people who say, if the cat family does not eat meat, they will lack 2 chemicals that will make them have heart disease and make them blind. So these animals need to eat meat. And how come? Genesis 1:30 says that these animals are given green herbs. Very interesting. Now, here's the information about how cats, if they are on a wholly plant-based diet, they do not have taurine and cobalamin. Cobalamin is vitamin B12. Taurine is, I don't know if there's another name. Without them, cats can suffer eye damage, retinal damage, or cardiomyopathy, heart damage, and possibly urinary tract problems as well. However, in spite of this information from animal doctors, it was found that pet owners ban on providing a vegan diet, that means no animal product at all, can add synthetic versions of these nutrients to their cat's feed. In a 2004 study, Michael performed blood tests on 17 vegan cats, and 14 of them had normal levels of taurine and cobalamin. So veggie burgers might be palatable for your house cat, but definitely not if that cat is a lion. This is from Popular Science. So even though the doctors of the animals, of the cats, said if they don't eat meat, they will suffer from blindness, heart disease, 14 out of 17 vegan cats found to have normal taurine and cobalamin levels. So the information is conflicting. So it's not true. Genesis 1:30 that the animals can eat herbs and do well could be very true. But this Popular Science magazine says it may be true of the house cats, but not of the lion. Is that true? Lion is a big, big cat. Happens that there was one lion called Little Tyke in the 1950s. It was a female lion rescued from the zoo. The mother lion threw this baby lion around, broke the leg, and somebody was able to pick up this baby lion, took care of it, and it grew up to be a big lioness. It did not want to eat meat. In fact, when they were taking care, this couple were taking care of this baby lion, they were advised by the animal doctors, make sure you give this baby lion meat. They tried, but the baby lion would not eat meat. They even tried to put some blood mixed with regular cow's milk to get this baby lion to like animal blood, so maybe it could be fed meat. So they added like 100 cc in a liter, and the cat would not, the baby lion would not drink the milk. Then they tried 10 drops of blood. You can read the story and see it on YouTube. Just type Little Tyke, and you'll see the story there on YouTube. Little Tyke would not take even 10 drops of the blood in the milk. They tried 5 drops, and Little Tyke would not take it. Even 1 drop, Little Tyke would not drink the milk. So it wasn't that they taught this baby lion calf to not eat meat. It just wouldn't eat anything that had blood. And so here you see in the picture, this lioness, adult lioness, was offered meat and it turns its head away. So it never ate any meat, and it grew up big and strong. So is Genesis 1:30 correct? The animals can eat a plant-based diet? I think it's true. I think God knew what He was doing. So when Little Tyke was 4 years old, the West Bulls advertised a $1,000 reward for anyone who could devise a method tricking Little Tyke into eating meat. Numerous plans met with failure since Little Tyke refused to have anything to do with flesh or blood. At 4 years old, the mature African lioness weighed 342 pounds, eating vegetarian diet. Her body stretched 10 feet 4 inches long and could run 40 miles per hour. Her skull, highly adapted to killing and eating prey, possessed short, powerful jaws. Normally, African lions eat gnus, zebras, gazelles, impalas, giraffes. This particular big cat, in a prime and perfect health, chose a more gentle way of life, vegetarianism. So, it's not true that a lion needs to eat meat. And this was a voluntary vegetarian among the lions. Okay. Now, there are other beneficial nutrients. I don't want this to be a nutrition class, so I'm going to just zip through a lot of these slides. If you don't remember much, don't worry. Just remember that plant foods is what your brain needs for nutrition. There's a B1 found in rice, wheat germ, nuts, flaxseed. There's vitamin B6, which is very necessary for production of brain transmitters like GABA and serotonin. It's found in wheat germ, raw garlic. Maggie is not here today. She'll be very pleased to hear that she's taking a lot of vitamin B6. She chews raw garlic every morning. Potato, cashews. So a lot of stuff that we can get in Malaysia. B9, folate, production of neurotransmitters also. And it's found in peas, lentils. Lentils, I think the Indians eat a lot of lentils in their curries. Pinto beans, black beans, asparagus, chisim, mustard greens. So we can get plenty of folate. B12. Now, B12 is stated to be non-existent in plants. So for vegans who don't eat any animal products, it's all right to take a B12 pill once in a while. Nothing wrong with doing that. Because if you don't, the deficiency can cause anemia, numbness, tingling, weakness in your nerves. There are some vegetarians who don't even take the B12 tablets and they don't seem to be lacking in vitamin B12. Probably the plants are growing in soils rich with B12 because it's not the animal that can produce B12. No animals can produce B12. It's the bacteria in the animal intestines that produce B12. So if you eat the animal meat, the B12 from the intestines of the animal is found in the muscles of the animal. So if you eat flesh, you get B12. But if the bacteria are found in the soil and they are making B12, plants that are planted in the soil rich with bacteria that make B12 will have B12. That's why some vegetarians never take any supplements and still are not suffering from deficiency of vitamin B12. It is suggested that when vegetarians reach 60s or 70s, it may be better to take B12 because you don't need much B12. You saw that the first line there says you need only 0.3 grams of B12 over a lifetime. That's very little because B12 can be stored in your liver. And so it takes a long time to run out of B12 if you didn't start out as a baby who is vegan. So by 60 or 70 years old, maybe you are running low on B12 and you should take some B12. So what are the dietary sources? Nutritional yeast flakes, Loma Linda Big Franks, whole grain, all brand wheat flakes. So buy hospital bread, whole grain, you get the B12. B12 and folate help produce as adenosylmethionine, which converts tryptophan and tyrosine into serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. That's why B12 is very important. There's something also called BP. I didn't learn this in medical school. The choline is a raw material for making acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter that helps improve the memory. So it's important to have choline. And where do you find choline? Quinoa, newly popular. We never heard of quinoa when I was growing up, but now quinoa and chia seeds seem to be very popular because they do have a lot of nutrients. Spinach. There's some in eggs, but unfortunately eggs also have a lot of cholesterol. So if you want to eat eggs, eat the whites of the egg. That's the only animal product that does not have cholesterol, the whites of the egg. Vitamin C is very important. We all know about that. It converts tryptophan to serotonin and tyrosine to dopamine, and dopamine to norepinephrine. That's why vitamin C is important. And we all know that fruits contain a lot of vitamin C. Vitamin D is produced by our skin if you go out in the sun. But if you put a lot of sunblock and carry an umbrella and wear long sleeves to not get dark, then you might be missing vitamin D. Vitamin E is also very well touted by people who sell food supplements. It does protect from deterioration in thinking ability, but it's a rare problem to have a lack of vitamin E in nations that are well fed. It's found in many foods. High sources: wheat germ, sunflower seeds, almond seeds. A lot of these are nuts and seeds. Vitamin K helps blood coagulation. The German spelling for coagulation is K, coagulate. So that's why it's called vitamin K. It keeps the calcium in bones and out of arteries. Those with high levels of vitamin K less likely to have hip fractures. And what are the sources? Dark leafy greens. In fact, there was one nutritionist, a doctor, who was asked, how about people making sure that they have enough of all these vitamins and nutrients? He says, you don't find it in a pill, it's not necessary. The food that will produce all these nutrients is called broccoli. So if you eat broccoli, you have most of these nutrients. Don't go and buy pills of omega-3 or pills for vitamin this and that, just eat a healthy plant-based diet and you will have good nutrition for your brain. So my message today is that there is a responsibility as a Bible-believing Christian to take care of my health. And as Romans 12 verse 2 says, I must transform, renew my brain. That's a requirement of God. And the best way is to make sure that my diet, my nutrition for my brain is the best possible. And I hope that you will do that too as you go about your lives to represent God and to teach other people to be healthy.